here we go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have the South Korean Protoss player representing Mystery Gaming. Just was able to 2-0 Scarlet. It is RagnaroK. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss representing Team Abydos. Has been just, showcasing his PvT. What about his PvZ? It is NightMare. He took down Future, he took down Gumiho, now he's up against RagnaroK. Gonna be a really interesting matchup here, as RagnaroK, kind of like NightMare, does thrive in the mid game. It's going to be a gate into our scout from NightMare. Likewise across the map. RagnaroK going for his hatch first as well. And yeah, typically RagnaroK is very aggressive here in the mid game on 3 to 4 bases. With Lingbane, Roach Ravager, he can go into Mutatech. RagnaroK not really known for his late game. NightMare is very similar as well. To be fair, in recent weeks, we have been seeing NightMare being forced into split map scenarios. On maps like Neo Humanity, on maps like Gresvan as well, we have seen NightMare kind of flaunt his Sky Toss against Zerg. But that's only if the game goes in that direction. Typically, NightMare, he isn't one to play for the late game. He's typically one to accept the late game if it does come upon him. I'm ready. I'm ready for fireworks. Ready for it all. Now RagnaroK is going for a hatch gas pool. NightMare back at home, setting up as well. We have a couple of lings on the way for RagnaroK, but again, these lings are typically designed to shoo away the probe. This probe, its goal is to be as annoying as possible and delay the third base. But with these lings, the probe is going to be shooed away, and RagnaroK should be able to expand and take his third base without too much issue. As NightMare is going for a Stargate opener. Okay. To have a Stargate opener should be for oracles. Everything here so far is looking very normal from NightMare. But he has shown us in the past that he's willing to go for an oracle opener into a third base into Glaive Adepts. This is something that NightMare, he loves to mix in mid-series. He loves to mix it in, you know, into a best of 3 or a best of 5. Doesn't rely on it, but does use it to spice things up. So we'll keep an eye on him. Definitely keep an eye on him. As back at home, RagnaroK is just saturating his bases, getting his third base up and running. And there is no real big signs of aggression out of RagnaroK either. There's no early Baneling Nest. Surprisingly enough, there's no early Evo Chamber either. We typically would have one, but RagnaroK, he pulled out a gas entirely. So he's not going for a fast +1 melee. And oh! NightMare. He's actually going for an Oracle into a Phoenix. He's not making a second Oracle. This is typically a really risky move. The reason why this is risky is that it means that if you try to be active on the map with your first Oracle, it means that you can't defend your third base. And we can see here, that's kind of coming to pass. The first Oracle has to stay at home to protect this third, which means that RagnaroK, he's free to drone. It means that his mineral lines are kept safe. There's very little harass going on. Phoenix does reveal himself. And is going to attempt to take down one of these overlords. The queens are in position. RagnaroK pulling back his overlords. Now, NightMare does have map control. He has all map vision as well, as opposed to RagnaroK. We are throwing down a Twilight Council, but there's a Forge as well, so this shouldn't be for Glaives. This should be for +1 and Charge or Blink. Oracle does slip in across the map, but doesn't get too much done. There's +1 melee on the way. A little bit delayed, later than normal, but on the way anyway. Like RagnaroK has just been focusing a lot more on droning, saturating his bases, keeping that Oracle pinned back at home. That's very nice movement here from RagnaroK. He kept his Overlord alive. He sneaks out behind the mineral lines, and he gets a full scout of the main. Confirms not just the Twilight Council, but he sees the Forge as well. He knows that he can be greedy. He knows he can be greedy. No additional Skytoss units. RagnaroK is free to drone. He's not, though. Interesting. Unlike RagnaroK, he knows he can just drone up to like 69. But no, RagnaroK, he's making a massive wave of lings. He's got a Bailey Nest on the way behind this as well. Interesting. So RagnaroK, he's going for this. It's a trendy style in this matchup to go Mass Ling Bane. To go Mass Ling Bane, you have to, because of this, you actually don't have an amazing worker count because your lava is being spent on lings instead of drones. But you get map control and you just apply so much pressure to this third base. You keep the Protoss player pinned back at home. And here we go. The Bailings are rolling on in, and we do have a reaction. Workers are going to be saved, but the pylon goes down. The Stalkers are under threat. The sentries go down as well. We force a recall. These lings are getting out of control. RagnaroK just flooding more lings behind this. Third base is going to go down, and this is already worth it. Behind this, he's got a fourth. He's getting a lair. He's working on a Roach Warren. Ay. And the third is actually going to be saved. NightMare, he barely holds on to it. He did save the majority of his probes as well. So this could have been worse. This could have been a lot worse for NightMare. Oh my god. Remember earlier, I don't know if you heard, but I was talking about how typically NightMare, he doesn't play for the late game, but he goes there if he's forced into it. He's being forced into it. He's being forced into Skytoss. Nexus is going to be focused down. NightMare knocked down to 2 bases. Oof. Overcharge is popped. Not the best trade here from RagnaroK, but he's committing anyway. He's taking down the Stalkers. And this may just be game. Oracles are doing what they can. Behind this, there's the Fleet Beacon. There's a second Stargate. So NightMare, he has to rely on Skytoss to come back in this game. This is a really wild Hail Mary play. Can work, definitely. But it's going to take a while. Going to take a while to really get going. Meanwhile, RagnaroK, he has the freedom to just drone up. He's on 73 workers, 4 base saturation. Infestation pit on the way for Hive. Two more hatcheries here for larva. Oof. Yeah, NightMare, he's just stuck on this low base count. For those wondering, this was really a massive punish here for the Phoenix opener. NightMare, what keeps you safe against Ling Bane is 3 oracles. We have 3 oracles now, but the oracles were delayed. They were made much later. Because of that, NightMare didn't have too much scouting, too much of a map presence. Didn't have as much to support his Stalkers. NightMare caught completely off guard. And the carriers reveal themselves. From here, Spire is on the way. Poor RagnaroK. Second Bailey Nest? What? We got a second Bailey Nest, you know, just in case the first one goes down. It's all good. I like how we're making Bailing speed out of the second Bailey Nest as well. Okay, goddamn it. But yeah, from here, RagnaroK, he has so much freedom to do whatever he wants. He drones up to 89 even. Carriers are in the midst of moving out. Spire on the way. Now, there's a lot of potential with these carriers just because there's very little anti-air for RagnaroK. Looking at the units tab, we only have 6 queens. They are being brought together, but these carriers, they can get some damage done. At least until the Corruptors arrive. Base is going to be cancelled. Carriers diving into the main. Meanwhile, oh my god. We have mass drill play. We have 3 Overlords here towards the left-hand side. We have 2 Overlords here towards the right. Oh, Lings are going to get spotted. Good revelation. And the carriers, they dive into the main. Unfortunately, they've got a lot of work to do. They're going to try to focus down the Spire. They go for the Queens. Corruptors are already on the way. Lings, they bust into the natural. They bust into the main. Everything is on fire. And these carriers, they need to recall if they want to survive. Then, and only one of them will make it back home. Only one does survive. Meanwhile, the Lings they've gotten 17 pro kills across the map. They're getting the Templar Archives. We can see NightMare is just being pulled apart at this point. RagnaroK gets a full surround. And because RagnaroK has a hive, we can work towards Ultras. Ultra Cavern is on the way. Fourth base is going to go down. We have a drop into the main. We have a Corruptors at the natural. NightMare is just going to be knocked down to one base. One mining base. Not like this. Sorry, NightMare is going to be knocked down to one base. My apologies. GG. GG gets called, and RagnaroK will take game number 1. Oof. In a pretty commanding fashion. It's a bit of a risky move. Just because as a Zerg player, you're cutting workers really early on, and you're just flooding mass Ling Bane across the map. And if it doesn't do enough damage at the third base, then you're behind. Straight up, you're just behind. But as a reminder, you know, NightMare, he was cutting some corners in the early game. He was getting into his Stalker production a little bit earlier as a result, which is good. Of course, Stalkers, they have their place in the matchup. But he wasn't really able to see the Ling Flood coming ahead of time, and he wasn't even able to defend either. Didn't have the oracles that he really needed, didn't have the positioning that he needed either. I think there was only one shield battery at the third, and a handful of Stalkers. GG. Actually, the shield battery didn't even come into play. If you remember, the Banelings, they connected with the pylon, which depowered everything. Regardless, we are getting into game number 2. Here we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Dragon Scales, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing Mystery Gaming, leading the series 1-0. It is RagnaroK. Oh, going for a 15 hatch. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss representing Team Abydos. It is NightMare. So RagnaroK going to be mixing it up here on the smaller map, which makes a lot of sense. This is Dragon Scales, one of the smaller maps in the map pool. Rush distance isn't too large. And he's going for a 15 hatch into a 15 pool. I'm sure you've seen this before, but to reiterate, the purpose of this opener is to get the hatchery down before the probe arrives. So the probe gets here too late to block the natural base, so RagnaroK is able to get his natural up and running, isn't forced to take one of these fringe bases. The downside of this opener is that this will impact and influence your overall worker count. Where's the spawning pool, by the way? Interesting. Okay. RagnaroK, this is a different variation. He went for a 15 hatch into a gas pool opener. Okay, so he actually did mix this up a little bit. I say mix it up. He's varying it up. That's probably a better way to say it. I don't mean that he made a mistake. I mean that he is just changing up the opener here. Is still going to be going for that gas after that hatchery. And again, with this, you have a better setup as well. Because you actually take your natural, it means that you have easier queen movement between the bases, you have better creep spread, and you can also wall off here at the natural base in case there's a Glaive Adept opener as well. So it's a very safe way to open. It's a little bit less economic than a hatch first. Obviously, this you have a lower drone count. But overall, very safe. Meanwhile, across the map, NightMare just going for his Gate Expand, or Gate Cyber Expand. Scouting across the map, and is going for another Stargate opener. Okay. Here we go. Oh, I was meant to catch up in the chat. That's because if you get 2 Bailey nests, you get the upgrade to shoot Bailings into the sky to kill carriers. My mistake. I see. I think there was something like that in the campaign, right? I say the campaign. I think it's in co-op. I think it's in co-op and the campaign. There's like the Zerg players, they have like a siege unit where they can launch Bailings across the map, I want to say. Crazy. I haven't played co-op in so long. It's been so long since it's been years since I played co-op. Regardless, pretty standard openers all around, or like very economic centric openers. Nothing too crazy. First Oracle is coming out. So what do we have after said Oracle, though, is my question. And there it is. It is going to be another Oracle. Okay, so much more standard here out of NightMare. No Phoenixes. None of that Phoenix shenanigans. First Oracle moves out. Second Oracle is on the way. And NightMare should be looking to harass some mineral lines with these once he establishes his third base. Back at home, RagnaroK throwing down his Spore Crawlers. He's got 2. He should have 2 queens per base. It's 2 queens here at the natural. His third is a little bit more exposed, but there's nothing really to protect, so it's all good. And he's working on a second queen in his main. Ooh, NightMare. Okay, so interesting. This is looking like Glaives. This is looking like Glaive Adept. So NightMare, he only makes 2 oracles. In more standard PvZ, you go for 3. Oh, there we go. Actually, we are working on a third oracle. It is a delayed third oracle, though, in favor of that Twilight Council. There's no Forge either for +1. I'm feeling Glaives. We'll see what he goes for. Across the map, RagnaroK, he's throwing down a safety Roach Warren. Working on +1 melee. Droning up as well. Oh, and it's going to be Blink instead. Blink with the delayed Forge. Interesting. So we'll see how delayed this Forge is going to be. Gateway Explosion is upon us. Third base is being taken. So far, 6 gates. Oh my, that's a little bit more. Okay, so he cancels the extra gate. He goes for a 4th Oracle. This is looking like an 8 gate all-in. But for now, we have 7. We should be getting a proxy gateway across the map. Yep, there we go. Probe is on its way. So this is a 3-base all-in. This is a 3-base all-in from NightMare. Mass Blink Stalkers. No Forge and no upgrades because we don't really intend for the game to go on that long. I love that we're mixing in a 4th Oracle. Oracles, they do so well to support this. And it's 7 gateways at home. 8th gate is across the map. I think you can go up to 9 gates with this, actually. From my understanding, you can go for a 9th gate, but I think that's only if you didn't get the 4th Oracle. Regardless, very committed, very all-in here from NightMare. You can see that he doesn't really have a saturated base. He's throwing down the shield battery. Interesting. Just in case, back at home, there's our proxy gateway. And we're sending everything across the map. Now, RagnaroK, he hasn't been able to see this.
Show me those skills.
He's got Diva. RagnaroK, oh, he doesn't have any roaches. Uh-oh. He's only got lings. He's taking into a Hydra Den. RagnaroK being a little bit too greedy. I'm worried that RagnaroK may not have enough to defend. Without roaches, without ravagers, it's going to be difficult. It does bait out the first stasis. Queens are being brought forward. Lings are diving on forward as well. Oh, massive. Much better stasis trap does go off on the Queen. And they're providing a lot of like reduced surface area here for the Stalkers. More Warpins behind this. Hydras are on the way. Again, a very greedy defense out of RagnaroK going Ling Hydra. Skipping the Roach production. Is he going to get punished for it? So far, another good stasis trap. Lings, again, they're just having a hard time engaging. Stalkers are getting very low, though. They're getting oh so low. Oracles, they come in from behind. Activate their Pulsar Beams. Queens, they're running out of support. They're running out of Lings. NightMare, he's pushing on through. He's on the brink here of breaking RagnaroK, and without Lings, NightMare, he can just dive on this. There we go. He blinks on forward, takes down the Queens, takes down the Hydras, And RagnaroK is being broken. He loses the backbone of his army. He's got a couple more Hydras on the way, but he's already lost so much. Yeah, good target firing out of NightMare. GG gets called. And NightMare ties up the series 1-1. GG. Oof. And a very powerful 3-base all-in. Very powerful. And I was trying to put some emphasis on it, but RagnaroK skipping Roach production and trying to go straight into Hydras like that was a little bit too greedy. Again, it's because he didn't realize what was happening. He didn't know how committed his opponent was. He didn't get an eye on the saturation at the third base or a follow-up scout into the main. So RagnaroK was playing blind, and he blindly was trying to go into Hydras, was trying to tech up even further. Despite having a safety Roach Warren, he never made use of it and punished for it in the end. GG. GG, well played. Whew. We have a series. We have an ace match. We have an ace match. You mean the bio launcher? Yeah, that's it. That's it. I see the chat catching up. The chat catching up with the co-op talk. Yo, the campaign was good. I miss it. I miss it. We play it again someday. But yes, RagnaroK is a diva enjoyer. Looks like the players need a little bit of a break before the ace match. I don't blame them. It's been a pretty intense series so far. Pretty intense. Oh boy, and we'll see where this does lead us. We've seen NightMare mix it up quite a bit so far. He went for the 8-gate all-in that previous game. Before that, he tried to go for a greedier transition into +1 Blink Stalkers by cutting corners and cutting oracles. Here, game 3, it's going to be taking place on Royal Blood. Oh boy. Taking place on Royal Blood. A little bit more middle of the road. There's a lot of potential here for aggression, to be fair, but we've also seen a couple of split map scenarios. I wonder if any one of these players is adventurous enough to take the gold. There are gold bases on this map, and we have been seeing them become a little bit more popular recently. It's been a lot of fun seeing like some Protoss players or Zerg players like sneak out a gold base whenever they can. Always exciting. Always exciting. But we'll see. As the players have now returned, they're ready to dive into game number 3. Oh boy, as a reminder, the winner of this series moves on to the grand finals. Who is waiting? Do we have any updates on the bracket? Has Estrella started his series against MaxPax? As far as I can tell, he hasn't. As far as I can tell, Estrella versus Firefly is still ongoing. Which means if Estrella and Firefly, if they go on a little bit longer, then we may be able to catch the lower semifinals as well. Could happen. Here we go. We are diving into the ace match and spawning in the top right-hand corner of Royal Blood. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing Mystery Gaming being forced into the ace match. It is RagnaroK. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss representing Team Abydos, clawing his way back in, tying up the series 1-1 in that last game. It is NightMare. I usually play through the campaign once a year. I play co-op more than anything. Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I used to play co-op a little bit more regularly a couple of years ago. It's just sometimes hard to find the time, you know, like there's all these new games coming out, you know, there's Diablo 4, there's Spider-Man, Final Fantasy 16. I'm not necessarily playing those games, but you know how it is. And I think the biggest thing that I've realized over time is that I enjoy laddering. I enjoy playing StarCraft. I enjoy competing, I should say, on the ladder. And it's difficult to take breaks. It's difficult to take extended breaks from laddering because you lose so much of your, like, you just become rusty, and then you become slow, and then it just feels so bad coming back to the game after a couple of weeks without playing. It's like so you still have to like dedicate your time to playing the game as well, not just casting it. It can be hard. It can be hard finding time for other games, or finding time to play co-op or play the campaign. You know, the one thing that I always wanted to do was I bought StarCraft Remastered when it came out. I never played it though. I would love to play the Brood War campaign again. I've played it so many times when I was young, when I was a kid. Played so much Brood War. As you can imagine, here in Australia, we didn't have the best internet, so I never played on Battle.net. I didn't have the internet speed to play on Battle.net. But I played the campaign like over and over again. I loved it as a kid. Would be great to play it again in the remastered version. NightMare is mixing things up. Okay, so I keep saying that. Switching things up. I think that's maybe a better word. He's going into a Twilight Cancel opening. Let's go. So a lot more aggressive here out of NightMare. This is looking like a Dark Shrine opener. It could be Glaives. We'll keep an eye on the gases. We'll see if he does pull out. Behind this, RagnaroK going for a hatch gas pool opener, forced to take the unnatural natural. No 15 hatch this time. Ooh, and we can see his economy is being disrupted here by this Adept. He's gonna slow him down. Oh! Gets another drone. He dips the hell out of there. There it is. It is going to be Glaives. Okay, this is interesting. It's not just Glaives. That is. Never mind. He does pull out. He does pull out a gas, so it's going to be Glaive Adepts. This should be 4-gauge Glaive Adepts. It isn't all in. You can expand behind it, but you expect to do damage. You expect to do some kind of economic damage across the map to even things up, because we are going to be delaying so much else to pull this off. 3 gates in the main, 1 gate at the natural, 4 gates in total. So we'll see if RagnaroK can read what's going on. For now, he sees nothing really at the natural base. The Stalker is a tell that it's going to be a Twilight Council opener. On top of that, there's no anti-air at the moment, so we can see RagnaroK is going to try and dip in if possible. Uh-oh. This isn't 4-gate. This isn't 4-gate, Papi. There's 5 gates in the main, 1 in the natural. This is a 6-gate all-in. 2 base, 6-gate Glaive all-in here from NightMare. Very committed out of our Protoss player. Uh-oh. And back at home at RagnaroK. There's no safety Roach Warren. Where is it? There should be a Roach. By the 4-minute mark, we should be seeing a Roach Warren. RagnaroK, he's not reading this well at all. He's got Lings. What are Lings gonna do? There it is. Roach Warren now gets thrown down, but this is at the, what, 4-minute 35 mark? This is late. There's a late Roach Warren. The Prism has arrived. The Adepts are here. And what is there to stop them? I mean, the Queens are going to be able to zone him away for the time being. We have Lings to try to chase down these Adepts. We do see NightMare. He doesn't commit to the Shade. Doesn't commit yet. See NightMare trying to rotate around. He does commit a couple of Adepts here a little bit far forward. They're going to get surrounded. Drones are going down at the natural. But RagnaroK, he's been able to buy enough time. Roaches are on the way. And we still haven't done that much damage. Oh, we get a surround. NightMare just taking control of the main base. Still hasn't killed enough workers. Still looking for some more damage. As the Adepts, they finally commit to the Shade towards the 3rd base. Drones are going to start going down. Adepts in the main are being cleaned up. Oh. And yeah, a lot of the workers here at the 3rd base do get picked off. We force a recall. RagnaroK, he has held. It was a bit of a chaotic defense. And how many workers did RagnaroK lose? He lost 11 drones. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. We can work towards additional gas geysers. Oh my god. Oh! The Prism gets sniped. RagnaroK has nothing else to worry about. NightMare is in a really rough position. Going for 6 gates off of 2 bases like this, like, you needed to do more damage. You needed to deal game-ending damage. It just didn't happen. We have Immortals on the way. We have a couple more Adepts out on the map. These Adepts, they've got a lot to do. They've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. Ay. Third base is going to be taken. Oh boy, it's going to be a rough road for NightMare. He's got a lot of kind of areas where he has to make up for deficits. The Roaches are pushing out as well. RagnaroK wants to be the aggressor. He's working on a lair behind this. Adepts are shading in, or at least threatening a shade. They are keeping the attention of RagnaroK out on the map. Going to be distracting the Roaches. At the same time, we have Adepts slipping into the natural. Depending on the target firing, we can get a lot of worker kills. We go 4, 5, 6 drones going down. Not too bad. 8 workers. But NightMare is not going to have a third. I believe we're going to be forced to cancel this third base. It is not going to finish. Sure, RagnaroK, he lost 9 drones across the map, and that is significant, to be fair, but NightMare is stuck on 2 bases. Third is on the way. RagnaroK with his lead, he's going for a Spire. I love it. He's getting into Mutas. Mutas, they will kill everything that NightMare has right now. Nothing shoots up. NightMare, he's working with Adepts, with Immortals, and soon going to be Disruptors. So Mutas are a very good call here for RagnaroK. It's a little bit greedy, don't get me wrong. It's greedy to tech up into Mutas like this, or tech up into Aspire. But he has a lot of freedom. Like, there's no blink, there's no charge. Like, RagnaroK, he's not really in any danger at all. Surrounds the Adepts once again. Disruptors are on the way. The Spire has completed, and here come the Mutas. And again, what can shoot up right now? We have 1 Stalker. Looking at the units tab, we have 1 Stalker here for NightMare. A vanilla Stalker, no blink, no upgrades. We can see NightMare has 2 groups of Adepts, so he's still looking for some economic damage. There's definitely potential here for NightMare. A lot of it also depends on what is done with these Mutas. Are we gonna, like, reveal the Mutas early on and try to defend against the Adepts, or do we just go across the map? And the answer is we're going across the map. We're going for the mineral lines. We have shield batteries on the way. Additional Stalkers as well. Well, the Adepts are shading in, to be fair. Drones are going down. But the Mutas, they dive into the main. And again, there's just not much to deal with them at all. A lot of drones are falling. But the Mutas, they can just dance between the mineral lines. The Stalkers, they just can't keep up. If we wanted to, we could even go for the sentries. 10 probes go down. Now, that is a lot of Stalkers, to be fair. It's a lot of Stalkers. So RagnaroK has to be careful. But the Adepts across the map, they all got cleaned up. Now RagnaroK can focus on his push. Up! Big Novas are going off! Massive Novas on the Roaches and Ravagers. NightMare, he's holding on. He just needs that to happen like 2 more times. As NightMare, he's still so far behind in the economy. He's down to 33 probes. He has less than half the worker count of RagnaroK. That's how far behind NightMare is. Not enough probes. Not enough of an economy. He's pushing out. NightMare is pretty all in. It's all or nothing for NightMare. He has a pretty large army, to be fair. If RagnaroK was too greedy, then maybe NightMare can take advantage of that, but RagnaroK has a ground army. He's got Banelings. Force fields aren't looking too bad. Meanwhile, the mutas are across the map. RagnaroK has to take this slow and steady. He can afford to lose a hatchery. He can lose 2 hatcheries. RagnaroK, he just has to muster up an army. Make sure he doesn't go in too soon. If he does, he may just lose too much. Bailing speed does kick in. And as NightMare pushes forward, he is going to be exposing his army. Nova goes off, doesn't quite find the connection, and RagnaroK, he dives on top of this. Haling's just zoning everything else away. No big connections yet, but the Ravagers, they get a full surround, and they swallow up the army of NightMare. GG gets called, and RagnaroK takes the series 2-1. GG. He takes the series 2-1, and he advances on to the grand finals. My condolences to NightMare. It was a good showing from NightMare. I appreciate, again, the variety that we saw out of NightMare as well. We saw a lot in this best of 3 series. We don't see 2-base 6-gate all-ins too often, and unfortunately, even though the Roach Warren was delayed, even though RagnaroK wasn't completely ready for it, he was able to keep up, was able to slow it down enough, and eventually get into his roaches. More importantly, RagnaroK was able to minimize his losses. Like, he didn't lose too many drones at all, especially considering how committed NightMare was. So, GG, very well played. Oh, we have our first finalist. And what else is going on? It looks like Estrella is still in game. Is he still playing against Firefly? Okay. It looks like Estrella, he took down Firefly 2-1. And he is currently facing off against his next opponent.